And let you take it away, Maile.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashley. All right, we'll give it a minute as everyone trickles in. All right, aloha everybody, and welcome friends and farmers and community members. We're so happy to have you here tonight for another TOPP webinar. So before we get started, I want you to go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat if this is your first time to participate in our webinar or are new to HFUU, and then put a 2 in the chat if you are currently a member or have participated in some of our past webinars. All right, amazing. We appreciate the participation. And it's always great to see familiar faces and connect with new ones tonight. So for those of you that are new to the community, Hawaii Farmers Union really works to strengthen and support local organic agriculture here in Hawaii through education, technical support, and advocacy. And the cool part is, you don't have to be a farmer to participate. Truly, if you care about local food, sustainability, and supporting local producers, you're really in the right space. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Maile Woodhall, and I serve as the Organic Technical Support Specialist through the USDA Transition to Organic Partnership Program, also referred to as TOPS, in partnership with Hawaii Farmers Union and CCOF. Now, through the TOPP program, we provide free technical support to producers statewide. That includes support with organic certification, compliance, record keeping, navigating grants, pathway programs, and much more. So I'll go ahead and drop my contact information in the chat if anyone is interested in reaching out and learning more about those programs. And I have to say, I'm really excited for tonight's conversation. Truly, whether if you're a certified organic producer, or transitioning into certification, or just managing a small farm, or simply just interested in the organic space, this is going to be an amazing discussion that's going to provide incredible, valuable insight. So before we get started, a couple quick little housekeeping notes. We're going to go through our presentation, and then at the end, we're going to go through a Q&A session. So go ahead and towards the end and gear up your questions and be able to drop those in the chat. And I just want to also encourage you, if you have questions about the TOPP program or organic certification, please don't hesitate to ask those as well. All right, so without further ado, we are so thrilled to have joining us tonight Alexa, the certification manager with the Real Organic Project. Alexa, welcome and thank you so much for being here. The floor is yours. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing here, and you should have sharing capabilities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I want to just a huge shout out and thank you to HFUU and the TOPP program for sponsoring and putting on this webinar series. There's similar series like this going on with various TOPP programs across the country, and it's always a great opportunity to be involved and get to speak to farmers that are new or newly entering the organic space. Let me share my screen. Perfect. Okay. Um, so I'm Alexa Schieferecke. I am the certification manager for Real Organic Project. We are a national organization, but we are headquartered in Vermont. So we do have quite a following on the East Coast. But I'm proud to say, as of this year, we will have farms certified across all 50 states, including in Hawaii. Alrighty, so what is the Real Organic Project and how is it different from USDA Organic? The short answer, standards farmers feel good about. We were founded back in 2018 in response to a pretty contentious NOSB, so National Organic Standards Board vote on hydroponics. A 2010 vote had made it seem like NOSB was not going to support certification of hydroponics. By 2018, that decision was quite overruled. So 5 NOSB board members, several other organizations across the country banded together to actually form a lawsuit against the USDA about keeping the soil in organic agriculture, making sure that organic agriculture was founded around plants with roots extending down into the topsoil, the subsoil, and getting all of that plant's nutrients and all of the food's nutrients from the soil. Um, So we were born out of that. We've blossomed now into 2026. We've got about, give or take, about 1,000 farms certified across the country, banded together over a lot more values than just hydroponics that I'll get into over the next couple slides. But that was certainly kind of our founding motivation. Um, Important thing to note is that the United States is actually the only country in the world that allows certification of hydroponic agriculture as part of an organic scheme. The European Union, we do a lot of import-export of organic products between the two countries. They do not allow hydroponic, and they're even reevaluating their current equivalency agreements and import-export regulations around allowing USDA certified hydroponic products into the country. So it is kind of like the trend right now. The movement is headed towards a whole industry that is based on soil-based agriculture. But we are certainly trying to be a catalyst for that movement and edging us more in that direction. Let's see here. I'm going to move us to the next slide. So one of our biggest proponents outside of hydroponics at Real Organic Project is that we are a whole farm certification. So what this means is that we look at an entire farm, regardless of whether or not the production is organic. So when we are evaluating a farm, we're looking at both the USDA certified organic part of the farm, and any production that a farm might have that's not certified. We see a lot of farms that might have a certified organic crop farm, but maybe they keep non-organic beef cattle or have a non-organic dairy. Um, and we're unique in that aspect. USDA typically doesn't look at the non-organic parts of the farm outside of any commingling or contamination concerns between organic and non-organic production. At Real Organic, we really want to see farms that are farming in the true spirit of organic agriculture. So we do allow split farms, farms that are do have production that is not certified organic, but we want to make sure the reasoning behind that decision is solely based on, paperwork, time. There's no market for it. Maybe you don't have a USDA processing facility that you have access to. We don't want the reason to be that a farm needs to use prohibited substances. We don't want the reason to be that the farm, wants to use conventional agricultural methods that would otherwise not be allowed in organic agriculture. One of the other big things to note with this whole farm certification is we actually don't allow parallel production either at Real Organic. So one of our big proponents is if you can grow it organically, why would you be choosing to grow the exact same crop non-organically? You have the infrastructure, you have, the land, you have the setup, you have the resources to make that production scheme work organically. So we don't want to see that same crop grown non-organically on a farm. It's very important to us that our farms are, part of this movement that is truly organic integrity at its highest level. So I already talked about hydroponic production a little bit. This is really based on the NOP regulation 205-204, which for some of you, depending on where you are in your organic journey, if you're just starting out, if you've become familiar with the organic regulations, if you're in the process of applying or in the final stages of getting your certificate, you'll know that that standard uh, pertains to maintaining and improving the quality of the soil, and has a bunch of different recommendations and requirements even for how farms should go about maintaining and improving the soil. And so Real Organic does not permit hydroponic because of that regulation and because of other regulations in the Organic Food and Productions Act. How do you maintain or improve soil in a system that is inherently soilless? Right? Hydroponic production is taking place in containers. It's taking place in mediums in the container, like cocoa coir, where there actually is no soil. There's nothing from the earth that plant is being grown in. And a lot of those hydroponically grown plants obtain a majority, if not all, of their nutrients from liquid fertilizers. So big no-no for Real Organic Project. I know there are some other third-party standards out there that are popping up that are also taking a stance on hydroponic, and definitely, we would like the whole organic industry to kind of gravitate in that direction. We do have a small exemption for container growing, exempting transplants, right? A lot of us might grow seedlings, transplants either for on-farm production or for sale in a nursery. We totally acknowledge that those are going to be grown within a container, but it's all about honest advertising. So at Real Organic, we would require that the transplant be grown and then sold directly to the consumer within the container that it grew in, so that that customer knows they're getting a plant that was not grown in the ground and grown in soil. They're getting a plant that was grown in a container. We do have one additional exemption allowing container growing only up to 1% of a farm's sales. And that is in place because we do acknowledge that there are certain highly sensitive crops or very specific crops that do need to be grown in containers, or are just always grown that way. We have quite a few flower farms, for example, that will have like less than 1% of their production for tulip crops. Those traditionally have to be grown. The bulbs will mature in a tulip cage. So it is inherently a soilless system. So for things like that, we will work with the farmer on that, but only up to 1% of the sales, or if it's a transplant, or for microgreens. Those typically, from seed to harvest is about 21 days. And customers tend to know that microgreens are grown in a container and usually in a greenhouse setting. Our other big tenant are animals being raised on well-managed biodiverse pastures with plenty of space to graze and move freely. So we do not allow systemic confinement. We do allow temporary confinement, as does, the NOP for a variety of reasons. Real Organic Project is a little bit more stringent on what reasons we would allow for temporary confinement of any livestock. But our big things, we want animals out on pasture. If they're ruminants, if they're non-ruminants, we want animals, with access to the outdoors. And that outdoor access area really needs to have 50% vegetative cover. So we don't want to see, show up to a farm and, have been told, oh yeah, the cows, they've got access, an outdoor access area, but it's a dirt pit. Or same thing with the chickens, they don't have a grassy area to forage in. So we really want to see that outdoor access area is actually giving them access to foraging abilities, to dry matter, to all of the things that contribute to nutrient cycling and a healthy organic system. Where we do have an exemption for that is pigs. We all know pigs can be quite destructive to outdoor environments. So we do have a requirement that pigs have outdoor access, but it does not have to be like 50% vegetative cover. We also have higher dry matter intake requirements from pasture for ruminant animals. So I think with the National Organic Program, they require that ruminant livestock have 30% or more of their dry matter intake come from pasture during the grazing season. And Real Organic Project for us, a minimum is 40% with a goal of 50%. We really want to see, grass-fed animals with access to pasture, spending a majority of their year and a majority of their lives grazing out on fresh pasture. We have slightly different requirements as well for indoor and outdoor access stocking densities. So like the amount of birds, for example, to an acreage, or the amount of birds to an indoor square footage. Most of our farms are going to look exactly like this picture. A lot of our farmers keep hen houses that have basically unlimited access to the outdoors, functions more as a shade structure. A lot of them won't have walls or won't have a floor, and the birds can kind of come and go as they please from the indoors to the outdoors. For farms that don't operate in this way and have a little bit more of a conventional hen house structure, we do have stricter stocking densities than in the National Organic Program regulations. We just want to make sure that, the birds are getting the most space possible inside a structure, especially if they're going to be confined overnight for predatory reasons, over winter for temperature reasons, really any reason that they would be confined to a structure, making sure they have adequate space to express their natural behaviors and be healthy birds. Just have some fun pictures in here of different farms we certify throughout the country. One of the other things that makes us unique are that the Real Organic program standards are really proud to have labor standards. The organic program does not have any sort of protections for farm workers or for agricultural workers. Real Organic Project really acknowledges that labor force is an equal contribution as environment to a healthy working farm. So we do have a section of our standards that does provide labor protections for farm workers. Depending on what state you're in, and I'm not as familiar with the labor laws in the state of Hawaii, but I did a lot of time out in California. So depending on the state that you're living in, our labor standards might be less stringent or more stringent than your state's labor laws or standards. But we still see ourselves kind of at the forefront of this labor movement for agriculture, especially when it comes to a lot of the Midwestern states and some of the East Coast states. Our standards are typically slightly more stringent than what the protections would be offered to those agricultural workers at the state level. So our protections are mostly around what we would call like basic worker rights. So we do talk to employees when we're on the farm. We want to verify that they're treated fairly, that their expectations as far as the job goes are met, that they have a safe work environment, they have access to any tools or safety training that they need to do the job appropriately, and that they're paid. Paid in full and paid on a regular basis and paid an amount that they are expecting to be paid. We also ask other questions around access to transportation, access to medical care, access to communications, different things that sometimes we take for granted as employees, but I have been in different farm situations, not for this job, but working for State Department of Agriculture, where you realize that, not all agricultural workers are treated fairly and given the protections that they should be given. So a little bit more about the nitty-gritty of our certification program. So we do have a certification program. We are a movement. It all kind of ties together in this beautiful package of Real Organic Project. But for the farms that are certified with us, we are an add-on certification. So as many issues as we acknowledge there are with the USDA around hydroponics, around issues of scale right now. They passed a strengthening organic enforcement a couple years ago, which was a wonderful new rule meant to dissuade and diminish incidences of organic fraud in the marketplace. So there were a lot of new requirements enacted with that, but the same requirements were placed on like very large corporate farms as very small, more farm to market farms. And so this kind of burden of paperwork, of extra requirements as far as record keeping went, felt a little to fall unfairly on the small farmer. Um, so while there are shortcomings, we do acknowledge at Real Organic Project that there are a lot of things that the USDA is doing very well. One of the things was either last year or the year before, they passed the final rule on OLPS, Organic Livestock and Poultry Standards. That made the National Organic Program standards around animal welfare and animal safety very similar to what Real Organic Project had already had in the works. So we were actually able to this past December when our standards board met at Real Organic Project eliminate quite a few of our standards that were now exactly the same as the National Organic Program. That's what we want, right? In an ideal world, yes, I love Real Organic Project, but we would not have to exist. The USDA National Organic Program would be stepping up, would have the standards for higher integrity, higher animal care, no hydroponics, all of these lovely things. But they're gravitating in that direction. And the passing of the OLPS final rule was huge proof of that. So this all feeds into this first bullet point. We're an add-on certification. So we do want all of our farms to be certified with USDA to the USDA organic standards as a baseline. We consider that like the minimum entry to apply for Real Organic Project certification. I will note, not that this applies to any of you guys, but we do also have quite a few farms that are popping up in Canada. So we have started taking COR, the Canadian Organic Regime, as an equivalent to the USDA NOP organic certification. An important thing to note is that our certification is completely free for farmers. So we really, first and foremost, we are a movement. We want people to get excited about what we're trying to do. We want people to be passionate about the message that we have, the changes that we want to make, and we do not want cost or excessive paperwork to be a barrier to entry into the Real Organic Project program. So, your organic inspector with NOP, they're going to look at your records. They're going to do trace backs, mass balances, all of these highly necessary but more time-intensive things. And at Real Organic Project, we trust that your organic certifier, your organic inspector, has really done that thorough deep dive into records. And you've paid your fees for organic application, for your organic inspection, for your organic certificate. And I know, we don't take those lightly. I know there's a wide range of fees depending on who your chosen organic certifier is, but we don't want to add to that burden at all. So any farms that are certified with Real Organic Project will never receive a bill for application, for inspection, for certification. They do not have to pay for any of the services to be a part of our program. And the last thing on here is Real Organic Project can certify all areas of production on a farm that are certified with the USDA. So what this means is, once you guys do have organic certification and you have a profile on the Organic Integrity Database and you have scopes, be it crop, livestock, wild crop, processing, and a variety of commodities that are certified organic listed on that profile, any and all of those products could be eligible for Real Organic Project certification. I put this in here just as a fun little slide. We're very proud to have 4 ROP certified farms in Hawaii. We did receive 2 new applications over the past year. I will be making a site visit out to Hawaii next year in 2027, so we can get all of the farms on all these different islands on the same site visit cycle. But we currently have a farm in Kauai County and then 3 farms in Hawaii County. And I think our new applicants, one was from Maui and then an additional one from Hawaii. So ever growing, and we're excited to speak with you guys today and excited to come to Hawaii next year and hopefully get to meet maybe some of you and some other farmers on the ground while I'm in Hawaii. Yeah, we're very proud and happy to promote these Real Organic Project farmers in Hawaii. So before I get into this, I wanted to clarify a few things too about our certification kind of cycle. Like NOP, we do have an annual application. Unlike your National Organic Program application, the Real Organic Program application should take about 20 minutes the first time you go through it, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And then it should only take like 10 to 15 minutes in subsequent years, depending on whether or not you had any changes to your operation that you need to update. So our application is very similar to what NOP calls an organic system plan, but a lot shorter in length and a lot shorter in the amount of time that it takes to annually update it. Any farms that apply with us do have an initial inspection. That inspection usually takes 1 to 2 hours, depending on how many scopes of production you have. So a farm that has livestock and processing and wild crop, if you have more organic scopes, your inspection might take a little bit longer because there are, things we look for in livestock that take a little bit of additional time, that we would not need to see on a crop-only farm. But typically 1 to 2 hours. And then similar to organic, it goes through a final review with one of our staff members, and then you get a certificate. We provide a renewed certificate every year with the submission of that organic system plan or Real Organic Project application. But one of the other things to know with Real Organic is we only inspect every 5 years. So after your initial inspection, we're not going to take up time, resources, especially, by doing a site visit for another 5 years. We do trust the system. We trust whoever you are certified with the National Organic Program. They are coming out once a year. They are doing those, annual checkups on the farm. And so we only come out every 5 years just to make sure, what we saw 5 years ago is still being done, or any changes that were made on the farm are still compliant with real organic project standards. So how do we support our farmers? One of the biggest ways is through our certification program, which gives farmers an add-on label that distinguishes them in the marketplace. So I know you all who are farmers here today have probably felt this, in the marketplace, whether at a grocery store, at a farmer's market. Depending on the size of the market, consumers are flooded with choices. And more, it seems there's a little bit of a greenwashing of the space where we have so many of these terms now that consumers don't understand what they mean. Sustainable, regenerative, organic, chemical free. Oh, I grow organic, but I'm not certified, right? There are just so many different things. And so our label and building these values and this national recognition really creates a talking point around organic integrity in the marketplace. We do provide a $50 code for all of our farmers every year to replenish signage, stickers, twist ties, whatever they need for their marketplace. We want them to be using this logo. We want them to be initiating the conversation about, why are they real organic? Why are they going above and beyond the organic standards? What does that mean, and how does that set them apart? Um, on a side note, we're really happy to have a graphic designer on staff that does assist a lot of our farms free of charge to the farm with incorporating real organic, either the logo or principles, onto a variety of co-branded media. So rack cards for the marketplace, assisting with, integrating into the website. Maybe the farm is designing a new produce box and wants to, get our logo on the produce box. So we really, we don't want to have any barriers for farms being able to fully announce, that they're part of this movement, and really use it as a tool to educate consumers about organic integrity in the marketplace. Joining our Real Organic movement also connects you to a community of real organic farmers. Like I said, we've got, give or take, about 1,000 farms across the United States. This is a large network of real organic producers, farming in a variety of different climates, atmospheric conditions, temperatures, from Florida to Alaska. And our last state this year is New Mexico. We just got our first couple farms in New Mexico, but these are all such different places to grow. And so we really do connect you with a network of producers across the country, which can be extremely pivotal and influential, especially as a new farmer in the organic space. It can be kind of hard and can be kind of daunting to even decide to take the step with the TOPP program to become an organic farm. And we really want to work to connect all of our farmers as much as possible. On top of that, we do have several online events annually, and our largest in-person event is a symposium at Churchtown Dairy in upstate New York. This happens annually in September. It is a fabulous time. If anyone here today is interested in attending, I'd be happy to send you the link. But we have farmers, industry professionals, dietitians, nutritionists, authors, everybody who's anybody in the organic space comes and convenes at a dairy in upstate New York. And it's 2 full days of talking about organic agriculture, various approaches in organic agriculture, supporting new farmers. The Friday of the conference we call Farmer Friday, and we really like new farmers to attend, and we love to sponsor new farmers in attending the conference. It's really just a fantastic time and a fantastic place for farmers to meet, converge, discuss ideas, and come up with new ideas. I find too, we get a lot of feedback from our farms that it can be a lonely profession at times, and being provided with spaces to meet up and to interact and share these ideas and connect with, people who are going through, mutual issues or have mutual questions, is truly an invaluable experience. These are just some fun photos of various events that we've hosted across the country. Um, we do our inspection season is typically from like June to September, October, and we encourage all of our regional organizers to host events while they're out on the road and attend conferences while they're out there. So some of these are, especially these top two in Ukiah, California, and Grand Rapids, these are just meetups. So we had a staff member in an area for a specific reason, and they decided to reach out to all of the farms within a, 2-hour drive of Ukiah, California, and see who wanted to meet up and, have a discussion around a certain topic or just talk about how hard their day was or what's coming up over the weekend. So they're really nice opportunities to converge. We often encourage farmers to bring a buddy who's either not certified organic yet or not certified with the Real Organic Project, so we can encourage more people to become organic and to enter the Real Organic Project space. Hudson, New York. So this would be part of our Churchtown conference. And then we attend conferences all over the country, like Eco Farm in California and O'Grain. Various certifiers like MOFGA has a fair in Maine. OFA holds an annual conference in Ohio. So we really enjoy getting out there and networking, sharing ideas, and seeing farmers like you in a space that's maybe not an inspection on the farm. We also educate eaters. So one of our co-directors, Dave Chapman, does a lot of events where they might not be farmer focused, but it's educating eaters about the organic marketplace, about the importance of organic agriculture, and about how really diverse it is at this point in time. Our largest organic retailers in the country are Walmart, are Costco, and we have organic consumers, organic eaters who think that the product that they buy from a Walmart or a Costco might be equivalent to something they could buy, at a farmer's market in Princeville, Hawaii. And we are educating them that it is typically not the same product. Most of the products going into a Walmart, into a Costco, especially when it's berries or bell peppers, those are hydroponically grown. It's a soilless media. They're grown in a container. And the consumer just doesn't know that, right? They see the word organic, they see certified organic, they assume it's the same across the board. So we really try to get out there and advocate for farmers like you guys who, are doing it the right way, who are expending the extra resources on labor, expending the extra resources on time, on seed, on all of these like soil inputs. You guys are going above and beyond organic and deserve to be touted and publicly and make the public aware of all of the effort that is going into what you are doing. So we do have several ways to get involved outside of Real Organic Project certification. This QR code on the slide will take you to our program website. We do have a lot of different sections on that website pertaining to more history about our program, pertaining to our board of directors, how we work, our standards. We also have a weekly newsletter that goes out. And then my favorite resource is our podcasts. So we have hundreds of episodes of completely free content on our website that is the Real Organic Podcast. So we have various speakers. We've had Michael Pollan on, we've had Marion Nessel, huge names in the organic agriculture and nutrition space. And these are three of my favorite more recent episodes. Organic is, was, and should be the foundation of regenerative. So kind of gets at that buzzword and how organic is regenerative, power, democracy, and food, and then real organic versus chemical farming. So all of these QR codes should take you guys directly to the corresponding episode. The application page is on our website for anyone that is interested in potentially taking that step. And then I know all of you are in a different spot on your organic journey as well. So you might not even have an organic certificate yet. And I really encourage you to, use us as a resource, stay in touch. A lot of our staff did come from NOP certifiers first. So I worked for a certifier in California for about 5 years. So I know the inner workings of the organic system plan and non-compliances and how to respond and record keeping and all of these things. Our staff is well versed with all of that, and we would be more than happy to, chat with you, stay in touch, talk through anything that you're going through, and then maybe one day, once you have your organic certification, you could join the Real Organic movement. I did want to go back before we hop into questions. I skipped a couple of my links. So in addition to the label in the marketplace, we do have, give me one second, an online directory. Um, we are very excited. Oh, my link is not working. I'm going to take you guys there organically. Give me one second. So all of the farms that are certified with us are in our online directory. This is completely searchable by state, by farm name, by product, and we get requests every day via email, via phone, from eaters, from consumers, from grocers, retailers, wanting to source real organic project commodities, and wondering, who is available, who can they source from. So I want to give like an example profile. Hawaii. We do have 4 farms in Hawaii. So if I click on the detail for Hawaiian organic noni, um, we have like a little description about the farm. If they have an online store, there's a link to that farm's online store. If they have a website, there's a link to the website. And if they have Instagram, Facebook, any kind of social media, we provide links to those consumers to get them directly to your marketplace. We also include information on here about where the farm is located, if they've chosen to have public contact information, and then details about any like brick and mortar retail spaces. So, do you have a farm stand? Do you sell at farmers markets? If so, where are those farmers markets? What days? What times? Do you do any kind of wholesale? And then what are your crops? What are your processed products? As well as, are you a split farm? So, are you managing non-organic cattle that still, doesn't have prohibited substances, is managed completely organically, but just isn't certified? We want our consumers to be able to see all of these things. And this has been a really, really helpful tool with our farms in, expanding their market potential, a little bit beyond, maybe what they're traditionally able to do with their own social media or own website potential. And the last thing I wanted to share with you guys, let me find my link. So tying into the no hydroponics, we are part of an organic soil coalition that has several different members across the United States, several of whom are very prominent organic certifiers. We've expanded beyond this group at this point, but we do work with OFA, Vermont Certified Organic, NOFA New York, OneCert, MAFCA, Bay State has been added to this group, Organic Crop Improvement Association. There's a lot of certifiers who have signed on to this pact. And so I'm going to drop this in the chat if anyone, has additional questions about keeping the soil in organic, or not necessarily why hydroponic is bad, but why it doesn't have a place within certified organic agriculture, and what these groups have committed to, what this movement is trying to achieve. This is a really nice, palatable, few-page document that just kind of goes through our basics. And then the last page on here shows you all of the different organizations that, whether or not they're a partner in the Soil Coalition, they have signed this pledge. They have fully endorsed, that keeping the soil in organic is what needs to be done to uphold organic integrity. Let me get this in the chat for you all. And then I'm going to get back to my last slide just so folks can take pictures of any QR codes that you want to get back to. And I will open it up for any questions that you guys might have.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alexa. That was really insightful. Truly is a movement here, and you have wonderful resources. So we really appreciate you sharing. As she mentioned, we're going to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and then we can go ahead and go through them. Just the initial one that did come in here was just if this event will be recorded. So of course, all of our webinars are recorded, and you can access that through YouTube. And then there's also just quite a bit of appreciation coming in from our participants. We do have some of the farmers that are enrolled in your program that are here tonight. So just thank you guys. They're showing some gratitude for you guys certifying in Canada and just also for you being here tonight. So thank you for those kind words. And then as we mentioned, we are going to go ahead and just open it up for Q&A, hoping you drop questions in the chat. However, it does look like Gary is raising his hand. So if you're up for it, maybe we can go ahead and allow him to jump on camera and ask his question.
That sounds great.
Hey, thank you so much for your presentation. Um, Not meaning to be difficult, but I went for organic certification 20 years ago. And after asking him what I needed to do, the guy finally said to me, look, just write me a check for 4 grand and you're certified. And that put a bad taste in my mouth. And given Mr. Kennedy's insanity and the USDA's prevalence for supporting industrial agriculture, I don't have any desire to be certified by the USDA. I'm pretty confident that everything that I've been doing far exceeds any of their standards and meets or exceeds your standards. Is there any way that and I've appreciated paying attention to the Real Organic podcasts, and I really appreciate their movement. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, certification or no certification, but I do want to be part of a movement which shares similar interests. Am I out of luck, or can any way I can be part of your gang?
As our certification program stands right now, your farm would not be able to be certified with us. But like I said, I mean, the podcast, the newsletter, come to Churchtown. We fully welcome those voices that are saying exactly what you're saying, right? There's been a huge corporate overtaking in organic agriculture. USDA is doing a lot of good things, but they're not doing enough. We are more than happy to have folks like you join our movement outside of the certification program. I will say too, I don't think it's in the near future, but we have been talking about other types of certification that we could offer. I know there are other third-party organizations like ROC that have more of a tiered system. You can be, gold level certified, silver certified, and they mean different things. So maybe, being baseline USDA organic certified is our gold or platinum level, and then there's different levels of certification that aren't. Our directors have also talked about coming up with more of a standalone certification. We're not in a position where we would do that currently. We do want to tout good progress that the USDA is making. But it has consistently come up with our board. Do we want to consistently be an add-on certification, or do we feel like we would want to, go out on our own and be a standalone? So I'd be happy to take your information, Gary, and I can totally keep you posted if we decide to do anything like that in the near future. We'd be proud to work with you.
All right, great. So yeah, next question was just what are the hopes regarding bringing the hydroponics back to the NOSB for another review?
Um, We are ever lobbying, ever advocating. We did have a lawsuit back in 2018. We banded up with 5 former NOSB members, a couple organic certifiers, including Maine Organic Farm and Gardeners Association. The lawsuit was initially dismissed by the courts, I will say. So once you get into a lawsuit that puts a court in a position where they would have to, uphold or overturn a decision by another federal agency, it gets very messy. So at that time, the case was dismissed. I don't know if we would pursue future litigation of this issue. We're really, really hoping, with enough farms joining our movement, enough organizing, enough advocacy, that the pendulum will swing in the direction that we want it to go. Our certifiers keep signing on to the soil position statement that I shared with you. We have new ones every year. I'm in discussion with two additional certifiers this year. And, the NOP is the accredited agency, but the certifiers are the guys on the ground doing the work. And so the more of the certifiers that sign on with us and are like, yeah, we agree. We are not doing that. We're not going to offer certification to farms that are farming hydroponically. Then the more collective power we have as a collective group to make change. And in my opinion, that's a more effective channel to initiate and see change with the follow through.
Great, thanks for sharing that. And again, we're encouraging all of our participants to drop your questions in the chat. And while you guys are doing that, I actually do have a question. You did mention that you guys don't work with parallel farmers. I was curious though, say it's an organic farm, but they have like a parallel handling side or parallel scope. Would
That's a
they
great
potentially be
question. So
eligible?
we would consider that split production. So we're getting into like the nitty-gritty of some of like the organic regulations, but split production being you have organic and non-organic production, but they're not the same thing. So you're not growing the exact same thing. You're not producing the exact same thing in both formats. So, organic blueberry farm that grows non-organic tomatoes in a greenhouse. That's split production. Organic poultry farm that has non-organic dairy. Not the same thing. That's split production. So we do call out specific categories of parallel production in our standards. And so some examples that we see where we do have to turn farms away might be we have farms that grow organic and non-organic microgreens, for example. So just from a real organic perspective, you have the resources, you clearly have the ability to grow that exact same crop in an organic form. So why are you choosing to grow some of the crop in a non-organic form? And people have their reasons, sometimes they're financial, different things, but those reasons don't typically align with our program and our values. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thanks for sharing and elaborating there. And again, we're just encouraging participants to drop questions. And again, as you do that, I do have another question. I was just kind of curious. You talked a lot about your marketing benefits and also like educating the eaters. I thought maybe you could speak a little bit more just as far as like how the Real Organic Project connects with consumers and if you guys do any additional support around that to help to market your applicants.
Yeah. This is an ever-growing part of our program. We're still fairly new, founded in 2018, so we're about, 8 years out now from our founding. And so we finally gotten to the stage where we've been able to hire a graphic designer and have them on staff and a large part of her job is to support farmers with the marketplace, with whatever they might need to educate eaters, to promote Real Organic, to promote their involvement in Real Organic. Most of our podcast episodes feature Real Organic farmers. So we have staff that once we get to know you, we want to know what's cool about your farm, what's unique. And we make recommendations all the time to our co-directors and our comms director. So-and-so needs to be on a podcast episode. So, they're trying this really new innovative thing. And that really, really helps with eater education. I mean, a majority of our podcast listeners are not farmers. They're not in the farming space. They're commuters listening on a commute. They're on a business trip, but they're all eaters. So I would say most of our involvement with eaters is primarily through the podcast, also through in-person events that our co-directors attend, or that I or the other regional organizers might attend. We get invited from local foundations, retailers we do a lot of work with, especially our California and West Coast regional organizer has a special retail markets project that they're working on right now. And so they've visited a lot of co-ops and retail grocers throughout the West to kind of figure out what organic product is being sold. Are retailers sourcing from Real Organic Project certified farms? If not, what is the barrier there? How can those connections be made? And then actively promoting the Real Organic Project farms that are in a retailer space. So we do have several grocers in California that are sourcing almost exclusively from not just organic, but from Real Organic Project certified farms. And so we go out to those retail locations frequently, and we'll host in-person events. Our coordinator has done tastings with various farm products, really encouraging consumers in the store on that day to, find a new farm, support a new farm, taste the difference, between a Real Organic Project certified product and maybe one that's, not real organic or one that's hydroponic, but certified organic. So we have a lot of different projects going on to support the label and support our consumers being able to understand what Real Organic Project is and be guided to Real Organic Project farms or retail spaces that would allow them to engage.
Great. And we're also getting some gratitude here from Leah for you for being here tonight. And also, she's just saying that she's ready to sign up and she's asking about the timeline for registration.
Wonderful. So we do have an annual application deadline of April 15th, give or take, I will say. So we do try to work in if we know we're going to your area that year and you happen to get an application in before our inspector has made their visit, we will do most of what we can to try to squeeze you in. Um, Being in Hawaii, I will say that we're not making a trip there this year. I've noticed that one of the lovely people on this phone call is a farm that I did have to defer to next year, just as a small nonprofit, and Hawaii being a very expensive travel destination. We try to cluster everybody and get all of the farms in a certain geographic area on the same inspection schedule. So all of our renewal farms in Hawaii are up for inspection next year. So I would say if you're a new farm, you're on this call and you're interested in applying with us, make sure you get your application in by April 15th of next year. You can get it in at any time. The links on our website are active. I'm happy to review it at any time. I'm happy to walk you through everything, but your application would be deferred or essentially on hold until summer of 2027.
Great. And then I do have another question about the labor protection portion of it, just because that is unique and not a requirement for NOP. Maybe you can speak just a little bit more upon those requirements. Is it essentially just providing like timesheets, or what would that entail for verification?
Yeah. They are still, I mean, having worked in California, I think our labor standards are pretty basic. But having staff from across the country, we have a staff person that lives in New York State, Washington State, Michigan, Iowa, Missouri. It varies across the board. And so our standards are mostly revolved around expectations, safety, and like freedom of movement and freedom of rights. So, examples of questions that we will ask farm employees are going to be, let's see. Are you provided housing? If so, is the housing in the quality and condition that you were expecting it was going to be in before you took this job? Does your housing have potable water? Does your housing have natural light? Do you have access to a space where you can change, where you can decontaminate after a long work day? Do you feel safe in that housing? Um, are you paid? Are you paid on a regular basis? Are you paid what you were expecting to be paid? Are you given a pay stub that shows, any deductions that were made from your paycheck, what they were for, how much you made during the pay period? Was that what you were expecting it to look like? Um, And then questions about, do you have access to a cell phone or any kind of phone communications? It can be your phone, it can be one the farmer provides, but if you needed to, make a call home, would you be able to do so? If you were injured on the job, do you have access to medical care? And an important disclaimer with that is not medical or health insurance. We know a lot of farms just want to provide that, but don't have the ability to because it's so hard farming. But how would the farmer handle that, right? Would you be taken to urgent care? Would they take you to the hospital? Like what does that look like? Do you have access to a grocery store? Are you able to buy, basic hygiene products and food? A really important one, maybe not so much in Hawaii, but I know a lot of the southern United States, California. Um, have you maintained full ownership and custody of all of your identity documents, right? So when you got a job, the farmer might have had to take copies of a passport, copies of a driver's license, to prove your legal right to work. But at no point should the farmer have taken those identity documents from you and kept them. So these are a lot of the questions that our labor standards revolve around. We do have a new subset of standards that was voted on by our board this past December, will not go into full effect for another couple of years. But those ones are more about reasonable access to a bathroom. So like making sure you're not in a field in the middle of nowhere and the closest bathroom is 2 hours away. Making sure, if the bathroom is not right there in the field, like, are you allowed to go use the bathroom during a shift or during a break? If you needed to, even if that meant getting in a car or being transported. Do you have access to soap? Do you have access to single-use towels? Like things like that. So those are relatively new. I won't focus on those too much.
Okay, great. So yeah, here in Hawaii, we have a lot of work trade, also referred to as woofers or willing to work on organic farms. So the
Okay.
next question just had, do your farms allow for woofers to support the business instead of paying them with trade for housing, which is
Yes.
very common here.
Yes. We do have some exemptions. We work with a lot of Plains community and Amish community members as well. And so a lot of their employees on the farm are usually family members. So they're exempt from labor standards as well. Woofers are not exempt from all of them, but they are exempt from quite a few, especially in regards to pay and certain resources, as we acknowledge that they have willingly agreed to a different sort of compensation. I can't hear you. I believe you're muted. I'm sorry. I thought it
Sorry,
was my
I
audio
was
for a
wrapping it up.
second.
I was just asking if there's any final questions here before we wrap it. Any burning desires to know anything additional from Alexa? Doesn't look like anything's rolling in. Do you want to say any final words before I wrap us up here?
Just thank you everybody for being here tonight. It really means a lot to have you be here and want to learn more about the Real Organic Project and the Real Organic Movement. My contact information is on this last slide. Feel free to email me with any questions that you have, even if you're years away from qualifying for Real Organic Project and you have questions about what we discussed today, or you want to talk about TOPP program, transitioning to organic. We want you guys to be a part of the movement, and I would be happy to talk with you at any time.
Great. We really appreciate all the work you're doing over there. All right, so I'll go ahead and we're about top of the hour, so I'll bring us home here. Just mahalo again to everyone for participating tonight. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to have these conversations. And just a huge thank you to our guest speaker, to Alexa, and also to Ashley helping to manage the Q&A. And just as a friendly reminder that we do have another upcoming webinar next month on June 24th. We'll be hosting Go Farm, so we hope to see you all there. And again, if you guys have any questions about, tonight's presentation or anything about the TOPP program, we're always here to help and support. So please feel free to reach out. So thank you again and have a wonderful evening, everybody.